I'm Ashley and welcome to my space here. This is going to be the extended reading for my weekly Tarot Tuesday guidance and energy update. So this is intended for the week of June 30th through July 6th, but whenever you come across this message, it is meant for you. So make sure you take what resonates and leave the rest. If you are here because you read the blog, then thank you for reading. I am going to go ahead and start with the two cards that I have pulled for this week. So if you'd like any more information or any more guidance, you can check out my blog post. I'll leave that in the information below. And I also would like to remind you that when you come here, to have an open heart and an open mind, to listen to your own divine guidance, your own intuition above all else, and to remind you that gender does not apply when you come here. So I'll use a lot of he or she or masculine, feminine, but it's really important when you come and watch these readings that gender does not apply here. We both have masculine and feminine energies within ourselves. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and start. And the first card that I pulled for this week with what do we need to know this week is the Ten of Cups. And I love this Ten of Cups. The Ten of Cups generally represents emotional fulfillment. So that's what I got off the bat right away, was this energy of finding your own inner fulfillment. Because with that, to clarify, I pulled laughter, and I love this card. It's just these two children that are riding these I don't know if they're they don't have horns like unicorns, but they're horses with wings, kind of like a unicorn. And so it's tapping into that energy within yourself. I was picking up right away on wanting more innocence, more playfulness, more laughter, more flirtation and lightheartedness when it comes to family dynamics or intimate relationships, and really learning how to provide this for yourself, because a lot of us in a masculine dominated society, we have been taught to take life very seriously. We've been taught to strip ourselves of laughter and playfulness and our innocence and our joy. We've been taught to grow up really quickly and to abandon our emotional selves. And our emotional selves can also be seen as our inner children. It's it's just our emotional selves. It's the part of us that's intuitive, and it senses through sensation, and it sees the world through unity and love and connection and peace, where it doesn't see the division, the hatred, the separation, the racism, the violence. It doesn't necessarily perceive that. It can still, obviously those things are still going to show up in our world. We're still going to see negativity. We're still going to see hatred. We're still going to see acts of violence, and we're going to see awful, terrible, dark things. That is true. Those things are not necessarily going to go away. But can we perceive them and not let them steal our innocence, not let them steal our joy, our fulfillment, our happiness? Because as soon as we allow the outside world or people that are trapped in negative energies to, deplete us in any way, then we give our power away. But our power is, in my opinion, our innocence. It's love. It's that connection. It's feeling fulfilled on your own. Because a lot of us, another thing I was picking up on was this: we've been taught societally that our fulfillment comes from the outside world. It comes from our bank accounts. It comes from our, relationship status. It comes from how many children we have. It comes from these material things. But true happiness and long-term fulfillment and long-term desires comes and starts from within. So it's really about cultivating your own inner fulfillment by really learning how to cultivate laughter, learning how to cultivate peace and love and happiness and joy. I was getting a message to come back to what you love. What do you love doing? What brings you laughter? What brings you happiness? What brings you joy? What puts a smile on your face? And how can you incorporate doing more of that into your daily life? Because we're really imbalanced and we're more masculine driven. Like I said, we work, go, 100 miles an hour. And this is saying, how can you incorporate more fun, more playfulness, more joy and happiness into your life? And this doesn't mean we completely cut out our responsibilities and our duties. No, it just means that we approach them with more lightheartedness, with more innocence, with more, and that brings us a much more sense of vitality, and we have this deep connection to life. And because I was picking up on horses, so horses might be a spirit animal you're working with, and I was picking up on stamina. And when we approach life from more of this lighthearted energy, and from this energy of optimism and hope and faith and joy and love, and peace, we actually have more vitality to get the things done we want to get done. We have more energy, because when we're trapped in those negative energies of hatred and violence and negativity, if we're just in negative energy, then we're going to feel depleted. It's going to it's going to deplete our funds. It's going to drain our energy. And really, like, laughter allows us, and playfulness allows for us to fill our own cups so that we can meet the chaos of the world and the hatred of the world, especially what we're seeing today with the world and the way it is today. If we can meet it from this place of happiness and lightheartedness and perceive it from a place of innocence and use it as a mirror, as a reflection to find our own happiness and to find our own joy and to be our own joy, to be our own happiness, rather than waiting for the world to give it and fill our cup. We have to really learn how to fill our own cup. And what we do is, like, we transmute this heaviness and this darkness that is looming over our country, that's looming over the planet right now, and we alchemize it with our intention of purity, with our intention of love and joy and peace and connection. And when we really begin to embody this vibration of peace and love and joy, and we're more in those higher vibrational energies like that children are in, then we begin to see that, we begin to perceive that in our world. And when we perceive that higher vibrational energy, that is what we're going to also receive in return. So I was just picking up on this energy really to transmute any like negativity, or like, because one of the greatest things, a lot of people's fulfillment and like feeling really good and feeling emotionally fulfilled, because this isn't just about feeling fulfilled on your own, this is like feeling emotionally fulfilled with your family, like with a partner, like just feeling an overall sense of like, because generally on this card it's like a family and there's a male and a female and they have 2 children and they're dancing like underneath this rainbow. So really, like, the 10 of Cups represents like emotional fulfillment and feeling like the sense of like happy family. But what a lot of us were born into, like, our families weren't happy families. They may have been like masks, and they may have put on like this false persona that they were happy, but on the inside they weren't happy. And there's like this like energy of like coldness, or this energy of lack or neglect, or pain from and trauma from childhood that is really keeping us from this energy of like having this happy family and having this more lighthearted and playful dynamic with our intimate relationships and with our children, like being more open and lighthearted and funny, and being that more way towards like our children, rather than being really harsh and really serious, and you have to get really good grades, and if you don't get good grades then you're gonna get grounded, and like all these like really strict and limiting things we put on our children, like you have to behave a certain way, and when we're at this place you can't laugh because it's not acceptable. And like that's kind of like what I was saying in my blog post, is like the ego self, and a lot of our ego selves, and our ego self is our conditioned self. It's the part of us that we identify with our skin color, like our race, our gender, our like our name, where we live, like the country we grew up in, our culture. That's like our ego self, and it's like our identification to the into the world. But it's also the part of us that is temporary, and the ego part of ourself is based in how we survive, and it's created from the first 6 years of our life. So if we were in family dynamics that were cold and hard and distant and didn't have a lot of laughter, didn't have a lot of playfulness, didn't have a lot of love or affection or joy or closeness, if we didn't have that, then when we grow up, and we're going to attract relationships, and we're going to create those same family dynamics over and over again, of that a feeling of you want this fulfillment, but you're desperately waiting for it to come from the outside, like, oh, if I get married then I'll feel fulfilled, if I have children then I'll feel fulfilled, if I get this position at my job then I'll feel fulfilled, if I have this much money in my savings account then I'll feel fulfilled. And we keep waiting and we keep waiting, and if we wait, we'll wait till the end of our lives until we feel fulfilled, because fulfillment doesn't come from the outside, it comes from within. And we can really cultivate our own higher vibrational feelings of love and laughter and playfulness and flirtation and peace and harmony and joy within ourselves. That's what we're going to begin to attract, and that's what we're going to create in our external world. So like our ego self is really like, if we've been conditioned and grown up in families, like I was saying, that are the opposite of high vibrational and like loving and gentle and open, like we're going to struggle to believe that we are worthy of this like happiness and joy and this playfulness, and so our ego is going to unconsciously sabotage us and tell us that we're unworthy of these things, so that we stay stuck, because the ego does not like honesty, the ego does not like change, the ego does not like to be wrong. And so if we start to do things that are different from what our ego has conditioned us to believe, if our ego was conditioned to see negativity in every situation, if it was taught to complain, if it was taught to judge, and this is like, what did you see in your upbringing? Because what I was picking up a lot on this was reparenting yourself, and maybe your parents taught you to take life really seriously, and maybe they were really serious people. And so like you grew up to be really serious, but maybe you're actually very lighthearted, and maybe you're very innocent, and maybe you're very playful. But if you weren't allowed to express that part of yourself in childhood, it's going to be really hard for you to express it in adulthood. So really learning how to reparent ourselves allows for us to maybe those parts of us that were like silly and different and kind of quirky and weird were kind of like not really accepted, or like maybe our parents didn't necessarily laugh at us. They didn't like laugh with us and encourage us to be funny or encourage us to be lighthearted and to joke around a lot. Maybe they shunned us, or they didn't like validate that part of us that was funny and silly and goofy and saw the happiness and the mystery and the magic of the world. Maybe that part of us wasn't accepted. And so what we have to do as adults is really begin to go back and reparent ourselves. And every time we notice ourselves like wanting to be overly serious and it gives us anxiety, or it makes us feel like depressed or sad and we can't enjoy ourselves, what we have to practice doing is finding those things that bring us joy and doing those things again. Maybe, maybe you were taught that the things that bring you joy weren't going to be like valuable in any way. Like they weren't going to get you anywhere in life. They weren't going to bring you this sense of fulfillment. But actually, what if it's like the more you reunite with those things that bring you joy, then you begin to feel fulfilled. It's 11:11, as I just said that. So you begin to feel fulfilled and you begin to create that within yourself. And then you can give that to other people. We can give that to the world. And I think the world now more than ever needs our lightheartedness. It needs our innocence. It needs like our ability to see the magic and the mystery in the world, so that we're not so depressed and anxious and sad and mentally ill. A lot of us are mentally ill. And the ego, the best way, and one of my favorite ways to tame the ego, to nurture the ego, to reparent the ego, is to laugh. Because the ego sometimes will be so irrational and say the dumbest shit just to get you to not change or to not do something like different to help you be more fulfilled. Like if you're wanting to create a new hobby that makes you feel really fulfilled, maybe you have always been into music and you want to play a musical instrument or something, but who cares if you're 50 years old, if you're 25 years old, if you're 18, I don't care how old you are. That's what, like, the ego will be like, well, you're too old to start a new hobby, or you don't have time to do that. Like the ego will come up with all the excuses. And the ego will try to be like, oh, you're going to look like a fool, or you won't know how to do that, or like people are going to make fun of you, or whatever. The ego will come up with so many excuses, but you have to laugh at its like ridiculousness. You have to literally begin to laugh. Like you have to become so aware of like what is your ego versus what is like your heart's desires, because this is kind of what I was picking up on with the 10 of Cups. It's like your heart desires, but the ego will lust after unconscious desires. Like the ego wants to be satisfied right now, so it will unconsciously seek maybe like sleeping with other people. Like that's something the ego will unconsciously seek as a way to fulfill itself. But really long-term fulfillment is creating pleasure on your own without having to have sex with a bunch of random people in order to fulfill yourself. You can create that pleasure on your own. And so that's just an example of like feeling fulfilled on your own, where other people may not unconsciously seek sex to give them pleasure, but they might unconsciously seek like cigarettes or drinking or eating food, emotional eating. So instead of like, every time your ego will sound kind of like, it'll be your hardest critic. It's going to judge, it's going to criticize, it's going to try to like put you down or call you names, and it's going to just, it's going to tell you lies. So every time it lies to you and tries to gaslight you, you have to literally laugh at it and then shift your dialogue to, it's like shifting your inner dialogue, shifting your thoughts onto the things that make you happy. So let's say you're thinking of a negative scenario and you're getting really down and you're starting to feel sad and like you're feeling anxious or you're feeling depressed. Before you start to get into those lower-based emotions and you feel them in your body, what you have to do is stop them in the mind and begin to shift your focus onto a time that you felt completely happy. It doesn't matter. You can draw on from past experiences, because there's probably been a past experience where you felt completely happy and you felt fulfilled, or you felt this joy, or you felt laughter, or you felt happiness. So begin, every time you want to think of a negative scenario in your mind, catch yourself and then start to think of a positive scenario. And then even if you don't draw on something from the past, you can create something brand new, like create a brand new feeling. Maybe you've never felt fulfilled in your life. Maybe you've never felt that. So you don't really necessarily, it feels really uncomfortable or it feels unfamiliar. And the ego likes familiarity. It likes to stay the same. And so every time you try to step out of your comfort zone to do something that brings you joy, maybe you like to dance and you've never danced before, and you try, like you go to a dance class, your ego might try to stop you a million times, like don't go. It'll try to tell you every excuse to like cancel, or or it'll just judge you and be like, you're gonna look like a fool, whatever. So you can either let the ego self stop you from stepping out of your comfort zone, or you can move beyond the resistance and do the thing that brings you joy. Dancing around in my living room to music, just let my free self fly, that feels unfamiliar because I was taught that was like, we shouldn't, I was just taught that that's not something that you do, like you take life very seriously. And so that can feel very uncomfortable. So even doing it in the privacy of your own home when you're not surrounded by anyone, that's integrity. So every time your ego's like, don't, like, put it off or procrastinate it or don't do it, like, and you don't, especially when there's nobody around to witness it, like, that's betraying yourself. But if you can stay in integrity, and even when nobody is watching, and you can still make the choice to align with love and to choose peace and to not give into your ego's unconscious desires, but to reprogram your mind and reprogram your ego to try something new, then the more you put yourself out there and you try new things, the more comfortable you're going to begin to feel. So whereas trying a new thing and like stepping out of your comfort zone may at one time brought you so much anxiety, now it brings you this sense of fulfillment because you're no longer doing it. You're no longer serving your ego self, but you're serving your highest self. And that's kind of the whole message I was getting, is it's like we're learning how to not, our ego is not something we have to get rid of. It's not something that we have to make go away. Our ego self is something that we need in order to survive, and it's also intended for us to work together. So our ego self and our highest self are learning to work together collectively, is what I'm kind of getting at. And like, it's not about getting rid of negativity. Like I said, it's like when you come across a negative situation or a negative person, can you learn how to respond from a place of peace and not allow them to, keep you from feeling this fulfillment and this inner joy? Like, even if somebody else is projecting their own limitations, their own insecurities onto you, can you still stay in this energy of like, I am already fulfilled, I already have everything I desire, like, love is meant for me. Like, a lot of people have these pessimistic views about love, like love leaves me, or love hurts, or love is painful, or like love is untrustworthy. If we have these beliefs, then that's obviously what we're going to attract more of. So and it's going to be hard for us to be, because I was feeling this energy of like being emotionally authentic and like being vulnerable and like really expressing your feelings and feel like being able to, because the 10 of Cups is like being able to express your emotions with ease and to express them in relationship, to express them authentically, and to regulate them like through, like with children, because you see all these little jellyfish, like it's like the 2 jellyfish and then they have all these babies. So like it's like really learning how to, like, because the ego self to me is kind of like our inner child. And so when we can really like nurture our ego and we can learn to talk to our ego nicely, like it's like the Beauty and the Beast. Like, that's the movie, if you're a 90s kid, like Beauty and the Beast, like she fell in love with the beast because she saw beyond his beastly qualities and she saw his heart. And when we can come back to our innocence and our inner children, we live from our heart. So we can see the worst person in the world, and because we're in our fulfillment, we're in our happiness, we're in our joy, we're in our innocence, when we look at somebody else, we're not going to perceive their beastly qualities, their ego self, because we're not in our ego self. We're going to perceive their childlike self. We're going to perceive their highest version of themselves, and we're going to see the beauty in them. We're going to see the goodness in them, and we're going to state it, and we're going to bring that out of people. And then people will, learn to see their own beauty through your own perception of yourself and seeing yourself through this eyes of like, because I was picking up on the energy of the horses and they were coming through with a message of pride, but pride isn't necessarily like an egotistical state of pride. It's like pride of like having self-respect and treating yourself with respect and treating yourself with value. And as you do that within yourself, that shows in the external world, and then that kind of behavior, that kind of respect, and that kind of love that you have given yourself will be reflected to you by other people, by your children, by your spouse, whatever, by your friends. So that's kind of the message I was picking up right away. I know that's a lot of information coming through, but I am going to move on now to what we are not seeing clearly, and then the advice for the week. So Spirit. And number, this laughter card is 47, which is also 11. So, I love that. Yeah, and it's just like opening up more to this like this energy that trusts. It's like our divine feminine energy, which really nurtures our, our inner child and our ego. And like I said, we have a very masculine dominated society. And so we've been taught that our emotions are like not of value, or like that we can't trust our emotions, or that like our emotions, but our emotions are guiding us to the highest outcome for us always. So it's really important to learn how to to regulate your emotions and to like really connect. I was picking up really greatly to ground and connect to earth, connect to Mother Earth. And to me, like being grounded means, you know how as children, like when you get in trouble, you get grounded. And to me, I had this epiphany once that was like, I really understand that, because being grounded makes you come back, you're more stable. Whereas grounded with our parents, it's like you're locked into your room, you're not allowed to do anything. But the term grounded to me should mean like, sometimes we act out like children because we want to be seen, we want to be heard, we want to be validated. And so we act out as children. And this people can act out as children. You can be my age. I'm 29 years old. You could be 50 years old, and you can still act like a 4-year-old. Emotionally, you may have, like, a lot of people don't understand like emotional maturity. So you can be mature and you can be 29 years old, but you can still have the emotional maturity of a 4-year-old, because if you weren't taught how to regulate your emotions, you're going to react from those lower based emotions. You're going to react like a child every single time. So you can see this in adults that like freak out, like that have road rage, or like that freak out on the like servers or waiters, or like just that throw a big tantrum over the smallest things. These are adults that have not learned how to emotionally regulate, and so they're reacting from their ego selves rather than responding from their higher selves. And so it's really about grounding yourself and grounding your emotions. And when you feel more connected to grounded to me means more connected to your body, more connected to the earth. So even as much as you are connected to your emotions, if you're too caught up in your emotions, then you're going to be very irrational and you're just going to react from your emotions. But if you're grounded, you have the ability to regulate your emotions and respond from love, to respond from peace, rather than to respond from your wounds and from childhood. Okay, Spirit, so what is going on behind the scenes that we are not seeing clearly right now? Okay, and this popped out when I was shuffling, so that doesn't surprise me. When I said that, I pulled this and showed this at 2222. So this is the Hanged Man, and I love this. I love frogs, and I love this version. It's just like the Hanged Man is seeing things from a different perspective. It's number 12 or number 3. It's like the Hanged Man is a voluntary suspension. So he's like hung himself up there so that he can be enlightened, so that he can see things from a new perspective. And that's what we're learning. That's what we're not seeing clearly, is that we're really learning how to see things from a different perspective collectively. And rather than seeing things from like our ego self and seeing more lack, seeing more division, seeing more like separation, seeing more negativity, what we're really learning how to do is perceive the joy, perceive the love, perceive the unity through the darkness, like through like not getting so caught up in the ego self, but really learning how to act, like I was saying just now, to act from this energy of love and peace. So we're learning how to shift our perspective and how to perceive the love amongst the fear, how to perceive, the love amongst the hatred, and can we begin to point out and see the beauty in our world, even if there are things that are not, even if things on the outside don't necessarily look the way you want them to. That's your ego. If your ego is freaking out because you haven't met a certain goal yet, or you're not in a certain place you would like to be yet, your ego is always going to search for more. The ego never has enough. And what we're really learning how to do is to shift our perspective to see that we already have it all. And that's kind of the 10 of Cups. It's like we already have it all. And when you can feel inside yourself that you're emotionally fulfilled, you already feel like you have it all. And you don't necessarily need anything outside of you to fulfill you anymore, because it's something you create within your own self. And the Hanged Man is teaching us how to not give our power away by allowing our fulfillment to be based off the material world and what we perceive in the material world, or what we receive in the material world, and really learning how to perceive from the inside out, like to see our fulfillment from the inside out. Like, you can have absolutely nothing in the material world. You could have no job, you could have no relationship, you could have no money, you could have no car, you could have no friends, you could have nothing, absolutely nothing, and still feel this 10 of Cups, still feel like you're connected. Because I was also picking up on a message of being able to connect with like children that have either passed or that are still in spirit and that are preparing to be birthed into the material world, and they're really teaching you and guiding you how to nurture yourself and take care of yourself so that you can be the best parent you could possibly be, so that you can create this family dynamic that's rooted in like love and happiness and joy and fulfillment, and you're not like searching to your family or like your kids or your husband or wife to fulfill you. You're really creating it on your own, and you don't necessarily need them in order to feel fulfilled. Like, if you lost them all, like, that's kind of a tragic thing to think about. But if you lost everything, if you lost your home, if you lost your children, if you lost your family, could you still feel that happiness? Could you still feel that fulfillment? And that's what the Hangman is saying. Like, begin to see things from a different perspective, that you're never lacking anything, that you're never missing anything, that it's all a matter of perception. That's kind of what I'm getting with the Hanged Man. It's just learning how to see things from a different perspective and not allowing like the outside world to like dictate how you feel. Like, the world is, like I was saying, the world is always going to be like filled with negativity, and it's going to be filled with hatred, but can you perceive it differently? Like, and like the world will never actually change. The only thing that will change is our perception of it. So if we can change our perception over time, then we just see it differently. And as we begin to state the changes we see in our internal world, we begin to manifest that externally, and if we see more beauty, if we see more love, if we see more peace within ourselves, that's what we're going to see in everything outside of us. So what are we not seeing clearly with the Hanged Man? I just feel like this, because like the Hanged Man could be like a delay, or like it could be some sort of like I said, it's voluntary though. So like you're taking this time. There's like a timeout, to like a pause, like it's a suspension, and that's like kind of the divine. The divine will like kind of hold you in midair and give you this opportunity to reevaluate, to reflect, and that's perfect for Mercury retrograde, which I believe we're still in until July 12th. So it's really a time of review and like giving our time to self, time to reflect, and like, can we see our past mistakes from this place of laughter? Can we see our failures, and can we like laugh at ourselves rather than beating ourselves up? Like, all the things we've maybe done wrong or messed up, can we just laugh at ourselves and be like, wow, I was just growing. Like, I was just learning. And can we really laugh at ourselves rather than trying to like beat ourselves up? And try to like, it's like this energy of like self-deprecation, like making fun of yourself. And it's just like, there's no need to do that. Like, can you love yourself? Even in your worst like behaviors, or during your ego fits or your tantrums, like, can you still love yourself unconditionally? Because like, our children are going to have tantrums. Like, no child is going to be perfect. Our children are going to have tantrums, but can we, instead of like, they have a tantrum and it evokes our own inner tantrum within ourselves, because we were never taught how to regulate our emotions. So if we react really strongly to our kids' tantrum and we're like, stop doing that, or we like try to force them, or we hit them, or we hurt them in order to make them stop or to make them listen, that's repeating the same cycle. But if we can meet them from this place of stability within, and we feel grounded and we feel connected, and we're regulating our own emotions, and we don't get caught up in our children's emotions, we can really be a stable, strong, space for them, so that they can move through their tough, big emotions with more ease, with more laughter, with more playfulness. And then like they aren't so hard on themselves. Like, they don't think because they're sad or they're angry that they're doing something wrong, or they need to shut up, or they need to be quiet, or they need to stop. That part of them is not acceptable. But when we can meet them with their big emotions like sadness or anger from this place of total acceptance, because we've accepted our own sadness, because we've accepted our own anger, if we can begin to meet them from this place of acceptance, then they begin to respond to us in a whole new way. And they're no longer like, trying to fight back with us, but they're going to respond to us from this place of love, from this place of peace, from this place of connection, because that's how we made them feel. But if we can't feel that within ourselves, if we can't create that within ourselves and on our own, then we're going to struggle to do that and hold that space for our children. So picking up on conscious parenting a lot too. So what else are we not seeing clearly with the Hanged Man? Because in a lot in our society, we've been taught that control comes from like our power comes from like controlling our children or like manipulating them in order to behave in a certain way. And so then they'll begin to manipulate us, and they'll begin to try to control us because we have taught them how to be that way. So how can we like learn and like take time out to see things from a different perspective and literally see from our children's perspective instead of acting harshly and reacting strongly to your child's emotions? Can you see it from a different perspective and respond accordingly rather than from your own wounding? So what are we not seeing clearly with the Hanged Man? Exactly, empowerment. So instead of reacting from our childhood wounds, we empower ourselves by acting from this place of alignment, from this place of stability within, from this strength within. That's what empowerment is. It's like standing in your own power. Like we're really getting a chance to see our own power. I think that's beautiful. And like that we have the power to create anything, and that we do have the power to create peace, that we have the power to create more love and harmony on this planet, in our relationships, in our lives. Like we have the power. This is number 9, so it could be like the ending of a cycle. I'm just picking up on it, and I love that because the Hanged Man card is all yellow. So I'm picking up on the solar plexus chakra, which is all about empowerment, self-empowerment. And when we can really provide this for ourselves, this 10 of Cups, and we feel fulfilled, and we're doing the things that make us feel loved, and we're doing the things that make us feel at peace, and we're doing the things that make us feel cared for and seen and heard and validated and accepted, when we're doing those things for ourselves, we truly step into our power, and we don't allow anyone to disrespect us, or, if people judge us, we see it as their own limitations, as their own insecurities. It has nothing to do with us. We no longer take things as a personal attack. And I think that's what really people are learning, and we're learning how to shift our perspective from, what is lacking in other people to try to find the beauty in people. And if we're not seeking the beauty within ourselves, if we're not seeking the love within ourselves, we are never going to see it in anybody else. So we really stand in our power when we begin to validate our own selves, when we validate our happiness, when we validate our joy and everything that makes us feel connected and loved. When we validate that within ourselves, then we just act from this place of empowerment. We act from this place of like, I know my worth, I know my value, I know what I deserve, and I'm going to act from this place of love. And it's love that is our power, not control. Like I was saying, we've been taught to control our children, to tell them to act in certain ways and to behave in certain ways, and that some of their emotions aren't acceptable. But when we begin to accept all of our emotions within, we begin to take our power back, and we begin to accept every single part of ourselves, and we're no longer fragmented, and we're no longer acting out from this place of like disempowerment, or like a lot of people believe that they don't have the power, they don't believe in themselves, and what we're really learning how to do is believe in ourselves. And that's the solar plexus chakra. So I'm picking up on Archangel Shamuel, and he comes to us and he helps us not just with like empowerment, but also love. And if you're wanting like this happy family, if you're wanting a relationship, if you're wanting like children and stuff like that, like if that's something you're wanting, like it's really important, if you want to attract somebody who's strong and who can give you this, like who can also come to you with this sense of fulfillment. Like if you feel fulfilled, you're going to attract somebody who feels fulfilled. So you're not going to be like, a lot of us have been taught to like be caretakers and like to make other people feel good about themselves, to make them feel loved, to make them feel happy, all the while neglecting ourselves. But we're like, hell no, not anymore. Like we're putting ourselves first, self-love and self-care, and we're being given the opportunity to recognize this, that we cannot be powerful leaders, that we cannot be powerful mothers and guardians and leaders if we are not empowering ourselves. If we're not taking care of ourselves, if we're not nurturing ourselves, we will never be able to stand in our power. So being in your power means like really taking care of yourself, like self-care and self-love, and really treating yourself with the most respect. Because when you betray yourself over and over again to receive love, like if you're neglecting yourself but you're giving everybody, like your partner, everything you've got, and you're feeling empty and you're feeling depleted, you're not standing in your power. Standing in your power means you have really strong boundaries, and you allow like your needs need to be met. And if you can't meet them yourself, if you don't even know what your needs are, how do you expect anybody else to provide that for you? So it's really about learning how to provide our own sense of power, like not giving our power away. And our power to me is our emotions. And like if we can stay in this energy of fulfillment and love, and we don't allow the outside world to take this fulfillment away from us, so this sense of fulfillment, that's when we give our power away. If we allow like the outside world or other people, like the negativity in the world, or being around negative people, and we allow them to take away our sense of power, like our sense of strength, our sense of dignity, our sense of integrity, our authenticity, like our emotions, if we allow the world to, take that from us, then we're just giving our power away. So that's what I think we're learning here. What we're not seeing clear is that we're really learning how to take our power back by really learning how to get in touch with our emotions. And I love that there's a woman on this card, because it really reminds me of like the divine feminine. And when we actually begin to nurture our divine feminine by taking care of ourselves, by relaxing more, by playing more, by trusting in the unknown, by seeing the magic and the beauty in the world, then we really begin to shift our perception of the world, and we see the beauty. You know, even when there's ugliness, we can still see the beauty. You know, like I said, it's not the ugliness, the hatred, the violence. You know, like all that pain. It's not necessarily going to go away. But can you choose to stand in your power? Because like I said, when you're feeling depleted and you're caught up in negativity, you don't feel powerful at all. You feel like you feel powerless, and you just think that there's so much happening in the world that like my little self can't do anything about it. But it's not about necessarily doing anything, because the divine feminine is about being. Can you embody love? Can you embody peace? Can you be a walking, talking, breathing, living example of love? Like, can you embody love? Can you act and communicate and express from love? Because when we do that, then that's when we're standing in our power. Okay, so what is your advice for us this week, Spirit? Lots of messages coming through, so take what resonates. What is your advice for us this week, Spirit? Okay, we have the Page of Cups, and I love this because it's like a little lobster, and oh, I just thought of the episode of Friends with Phoebe, you know, you're my lobster. But the lobster here is like has this paintbrush, and it's creating, and I love the Page of Cups because it's another card of innocence. And that's totally, and it's like, okay, so the Page of Cups would be like, it could be like an expression of love. It's just like the Page of Cups is highly intuitive, and that's kind of picking up on like the divine feminine and connecting. And this, I like this page because it's like art. It's like taking your emotions and expressing them, like using your emotions to express yourself, rather than like we've been taught to deny our emotions, or that they're bad or they're wrong, and so we kind of hide them. But as we begin to express our emotions more, we begin to feel this sense of fulfillment. We begin to feel this sense of like, like I'm being true to who I am. I'm expressing myself. And I feel like that's what a lot of people are learning, is learning how to express themselves from this place of authenticity, from this place of like really understanding their emotions. And a lot of us have not been taught to like go into our emotions at all. And we had two water signs, or like two water cards show up. So this could represent Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces. And yeah, this is like Page of Cups is just like a card of like being really intuitive, taking more like a lighthearted approach to things. That's always how I see the Page of Cups, and that's perfect, I think, with like laughter and the kids on that card. And there's like kids, okay, they're not really kids, but they're little baby jellyfish, like it represents their kids on this card. So I love that. Like really, the advice is to just be more like open. That's the Page of Cups, is like be open and be vulnerable. But it's also like an innocent energy. So like you're not like a pro maybe at like expressing yourself. You're not a pro at like necessarily like understanding your emotions. It's maybe something you're just learning how to do, and that's okay. Like the Page of Cups is like, make art. Like that's what I'm kind of picking up this card. Make art, like even if it's like the silliest thing, like if you just get a paintbrush out, I'm just picking up on like doodling, or like just expressing yourself, or like writing. But most of the time just picking up on this energy of like coloring, even like I'm seeing like a coloring book. So like really just allow yourself to tap more into your creative side. That's kind of what I'm getting with the Page of Cups, is like this creativity, connecting with your emotions to allow you to create. So rather than like fearing your emotions, or if you're feeling really sad, like really transmuting them into light by creating with them. So I really like that. Okay, and then let's see, what is your advice with the Page of Cups, Spirit? And that's, I love this, because the Page of Cups to me is like, don't take things so seriously. Like, be more lighthearted. And the Page of Cups to me is playfulness and innocence, so I love that. That's the advice. And like the Page of Cups to me isn't necessarily like scared to express themselves. It's something that just comes kind of like naturally to the Page of Cups, just kind of like part of who they are. So that might be part of like who you are. Like it just comes naturally to you to express your emotions. And there's nothing wrong with you for that. So what else is your advice with the Page of Cups, Spirit? Okay, yes, celebrate differences. And this is a number 3 again, so that's the second time we have unicorns on here. There's a dolphin, which I love dolphins. There's the infinity symbol, there's fish, there's kind of looks like swans maybe, and there's another child laying on this dolphin, so I love that. Yeah, what I'm picking up here is like to allow, okay, people are going to express themselves in different ways. Like there's so many different ways to express yourself. This could be through communication, this could be through art, and even if you express yourself in art, people aren't always going to understand you. So it's really important to remember, it's like you're not here to be understood by anyone. You're here to express yourself, and it's okay that you're different from other people. Like it's okay that you have differences. That's what makes you unique, and that's what makes you you. So celebrate that. Celebrate you. Celebrate your uniqueness. Celebrate your ability to see things differently. Not everybody can see the lightness in the dark. Not everybody can see that. So if you're one of those people and you're struggling to like see your beauty, and you're struggling to see that your uniqueness and your own unique perspective brings something to the world, if you're struggling with that, like learn to celebrate yourself and celebrate that you are different. A lot of us, maybe you were different growing up in childhood, and that's like maybe you were different as a kid. You know, that's like the Page of Cups. This is like speaking to me as like being a kid, and I'm seeing like elementary age, you know, and like maybe you always felt really different. You know, you could have like maybe you felt really connected to animals, or maybe you felt really connected to earth, or you know, maybe you felt really connected to your emotions, which is the Page of Cups, but you weren't necessarily taught how to express that part of you. And so this made you feel really different. It made you feel like kind of weird. And also the Page of Cups is really intuitive. So maybe you felt really intuitive as a child, but those gifts weren't honored, they weren't validated, and they weren't accepted. And so you thought like that made you, you know, weird, or you aren't worthy, or that gift that you have of being intuitive is not valuable. And so you kind of like discarded it. But that's what Spirit is saying, like get back to what you love. Get back to expressing yourself intuitively, because that's where your truth comes from. That's like where your highest vibrational self stems from, is from your emotional self. And when you're really grounded and you're really connected deeply to yourself, then you can celebrate your differences and not see it as something is wrong with you, or like you're less worthy than other people just because you're different. But I'm also picking up on, like, even if you didn't feel different, that doesn't resonate for you, I'm also picking up on this energy of like maybe people around you are different, or maybe they have different perspectives, or maybe even your spouse, you know, maybe you have different perceptions of the world, but you can still celebrate people's differences. Not everyone has to agree with you. How boring would it be in life if everybody thought the same exact way, if everybody felt the same exact way? I mean, it'd just be so boring. We wouldn't learn anything, we wouldn't grow, we wouldn't evolve at all. So it's important that people have differences and celebrate people's differences rather than judging them. See them from the eyes of innocence, from the Page of Cups, and see them as like, that makes you uniquely you. So maybe you see somebody, this is an example, maybe you see somebody that's like, and especially, I'm going to tell you a story. I had this happen to me just like less than a week ago. I came into contact with somebody that I had known for a while. But anyway, before I left, after the interaction, she had mentioned something. She had leaned in and whispered to me, you know, like, no more tattoos, you know, not on your beautiful skin. Like, you don't need any more tattoos. And I was like, for me, I love art. And I'm like, that's so cool that you can put art on your body. Like, I'm all for tattoos. I think they're awesome. Like, that you can express yourself on your body, you know, I just think that's cool. So it was like, for her, instead of her judging me for having tattoos, you know, she could see me as, you know, she could have celebrated my differences and say, oh, like maybe that's not for me, but for her that works, you know, like in celebrating that person's differences. And as you begin to celebrate your own differences, and you honor yourself and your own uniqueness, then you can look at other people and they might be different, they might be weird, they might be way out of the fucking box, maybe like abnormal compared to what you're used to, you know. But can you look at them and celebrate their differences, like celebrate their uniqueness? And I believe that once we begin to celebrate our own uniqueness and our own differences, then we can do that to other people. And like, not everyone's going to have the same perception as you. Not everyone is going to see life the same way as you. But can you still like celebrate your own beauty, your own perception, your own self? So that's kind of the advice there, is like, yeah, celebrate people's differences. Like, you don't have to judge people or be so hard on people. The only reason we would judge or be really hard on other people is because we're judging and being really hard on ourselves. So can you celebrate yourself more? That's the advice. Celebrate yourself more. Like, rather than like putting yourself down or, you know, like hiding away or keeping yourself small, celebrate what makes you you. And express that, share that with the world. That's the Page of Cups, is like expression. And it's just kind of like whimsical. That's kind of the word I hear. It's like, just allow yourself to be free. It's emotional freedom, and that's kind of what I was picking up on. A lot of us are not emotionally free, and so we feel very like disempowered. We feel like other people have the power to make us feel a certain way. And like, let's say you're in the presence of like your boyfriend or your girlfriend, and they make you feel so happy, and they make you feel so loved, and they make you feel so, excited. But as soon as they leave, you're bored. You don't know what to do. You're obsessively texting them. Like, you don't feel happy anymore. You don't really feel that lovey-dovey emotions. Like when they're out of your presence, then your feelings of love and your feelings of like joy and happiness, they go away too. Like, that means you're giving your power away, and that like you're not standing in your power, because your power is like your alignment. It's your vibration. It's your point of focus. So this is what would happen. So you're like in the presence of somebody, and you're like, they're right here, so I feel their presence. But as soon as they leave, you're in this like lack mentality, and like you're searching for them to come back, because you think that once they come back, so will your feelings. And maybe and maybe that person that you're with is having a really bad day, and they can't make you feel good about yourself. They can't be really loving towards you. They can't provide you with that emotional support because they're struggling within. Can you be your own emotional support system? Like, when somebody else is suffering, can you be there for yourself and not be like, oh, well, because this person's having a bad day, I'm gonna completely. This is like a emotional enmeshment. And when one person's like in a family dynamic, if one person is feeling angry or sad, it affects the whole dynamic of the family, and everybody else becomes sad, or everybody else becomes angry, or everybody else becomes distant or withdrawn, So it's like, when we're really entangled in other people to make us feel a certain way, we're going to give our power away. And when they, can't provide for us higher vibrational feelings, then we feel like, we're unworthy of feeling that. But what we really have to do is learn how to create and generate those feelings on our own, and live in alignment and embody those feelings every single day, without needing to rely on somebody else to stimulate it for us. That's the ego. Like, the ego will only feel a certain way if it sees somebody else giving it that, but it struggles to produce it on its own, because it's rooted in lack, it's rooted in separation, it's rooted in division. So it's always going to see the worst qualities in people. It's always going to pinpoint, it's always going to poke out, it's always going to try to make you focus on the lack. It's always going to make you focus on what is missing. But when we're rooted in our highest self, and we're standing in our power, and we're deeply connected to our emotions, we're going to, our point of attraction and our point of focus is going to be love. It's going to be beauty. It's going to be peace. The more we seek that out, the more we're in that vibration, the more we're intended and we're focused on that. That's the more we're going to receive that and see it reflected in our external world. So underneath this was illumination, number 2, and this is like a big butterfly, and there's a full moon. So I love that, because there's a lot of emotions, heightened emotions right now, and it is Cancer season. And this week is Independence Day here in America, so happy 4th of July. And that's totally like, it's like Independence Day, and like, we have this idea in America that we are free. Guys, it's a fucking illusion. We are not free. We're not free in this country until we're emotionally free. If we're denying our emotions, and we feel trapped emotionally, like we feel stuck, we are not free. I'm sorry. This country is so... I love America, obviously, because it's my country. But I think that we're doing a lot of things that are hindering our citizens, and we're not teaching them to be empowered. Because guess what? Our country makes a damn good profit off our disempowerment, off our illness, off our bad health, off our mental health. So it's really giving us an opportunity to, like, we judge a lot of people with mental health. And a lot of people, there are so many people in this country that have mental health. And mental health isn't just something like, some people that are chronically depressed or like super anxious or that have schizophrenia, or, those aren't just mental health. Mental health is like feeling like people are addicted to negative thought patterns, like it's complaining all the time. That's mental health. If you're in a mental state of negativity all the time, like, that's mental health. And what we really have to do is learn how to celebrate people's differences. Like, just because somebody struggles with mental health does not make them less worthy or less valuable of connection or, expression or love. Like, in fact, the people that are struggling with mental health, they don't need punished or scrutinized anymore. What they need is more love. What they need is more compassion, more understanding, more empathy. So it's like, don't judge people for like having mental health or for anything, you know. Can you see them as somebody that's like struggling and they need like compassion? So anyway, what's the overall message for us this week, Spirit? From Chakra Insights, I'm going to pull a card for you and read you the message. So this is the overall message for the week. What do you need to know this week, Spirit? Okay, interesting. We have possessions, number 7, belongings, finances, assets, and treasures. This is the root chakra. I like this card. So there's like, she's like holding this red orb, and she has like antlers. So let's read that here. Number 7. Enjoy the pleasures of a balanced material life. Cultivate, honor, organize, and share. It is said that we are spiritual beings living in a physical world. Part of living in this world is coming into right relations with the material realm, while recognizing the source of all creation. While we know that money and possessions alone can't sustain our happiness, we also know that consistent denial of material needs can bring great stress into our lives. This card is a call for you to cultivate a balanced relationship with the material plane. That makes so much sense. That's kind of what I was feeling for the overall message. Organize your finances. Take stock of your possessions. Gain awareness of the balance of money and other physical energy coming into your life on a daily basis, and that which is going out. Are the scales of your material world balanced, or are they heavily weighted on one side? That's why I was like saying that we've been taught to take life very seriously and to incorporate more like laughter, more pleasure, more play into our lives will help us to create that more like balanced lifestyle. Perhaps you spend carelessly or have a tendency to gather, hoard, and collect that which you do not really need. Or maybe you are denying yourself from claiming or receiving some of the material comforts that truly nurture and support your well-being. It is time to evaluate your possessions, to honor what is precious to you and that which matters most, and to let go of any unnecessary attachment or hold that certain items may have on you. Consider what items genuinely add value to your life, and which ones are just filling space or creating clutter, perhaps blocking what you truly desire from coming in. Now may be the time for a good spring clean, clearing a space in your life for the inflow of life's true treasures. It's not about giving away all your possessions as they are an expression of who you are. Rather, it is about letting go of the dependency, the strong need to have them to feel good or to define who you are. Give thanks for the cherished possessions that you currently have, and if you have a need for others, welcome them in, giving deep thanks for their forthcoming arrival into your life. Know that you are worthy of a prosperous, balanced life. We are temporary visitors to this earthly plane, so let go of unnecessary greed for wealth and accumulation of possessions. Instead, celebrate differences. Celebrate this call to enjoy the temporary pleasures of a balanced material life. Cultivate, honor, and share what you have with others. I love that. I feel like that was perfect, especially I was picking up, there's this message of like spring cleaning, and I was picking up on like minimalism, and I don't know if you've heard of this, but it's just like minimalism is just like getting rid of things that basically don't add value to your life, and that's kind of what it was saying here, like really living just like with the basic things you need. Like you don't need, it's like simplicity, so you can still have a very prosperous and balanced life without having an accumulation of things. Like you can just, the things that really truly mean things to you and that add value to your life, you keep those, but things that you don't really necessarily need will also help you to clear space in your physical world. But when you clear space in your physical world, you clear space in your mental world and your mind. And when you clean up your outside world, you really clean up your mind. And you don't have, think about it, like the more clothes you have, the more time you're going to spend doing laundry and the less time you're going to get to spend with your family. So it's like those things, like you don't need 1,000 clothes. You don't need so much stuff, to have a fulfilling life or to make you feel, like you've, have everything. Like you can have everything without having an overconsumption of things. Like, so anyway, I was just picking up on this energy of like minimalism. So you can check out the Minimalist on Instagram. I just really love their work. They also have a documentary on Netflix that is really good. And I just highly recommend them because I believe in a minimalist lifestyle, because I think our overconsumption is really taking a toll on our planet. And if we came out of this ego self that thinks we have to constantly consume and constantly, produce all the time, that we could really help Mother Earth, and she wouldn't have such a hard time like trying to keep up with us right now, and like we wouldn't be having so many issues with like climate change if we could really slow down on our overconsumption in this country. So anyway, I hope this was helpful for you. I hope it was healing for you. I do private readings, so if you would like to book one with me, I'll leave all the information below. I'm sending you so much love, and I'll be back next week. Take care.